I'm Patricia Diorio. Welcome back to Get Conscious Now. After a year's hiatus, I'm absolutely delighted to be sitting here again, bringing you the television show that is about raising consciousness in a mostly unconscious world. Our intention is to help educate people and help them understand that there's so much more going on in this human experience than meets the eye. Our mission is to explore the physical reality and its practical implications in our world to bring us into a more mindful, happy place. So sitting right next to me is my co-host, Stu Zimmerman, who comes all the way down from Sebastopol to be on our show every time. And it's been a while.
It is.
It's wonderful to see you again.
Patricia, it's so good to be back here again.
It is. It's great.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So what you been up to?
Well, what have I been up to? Okay,
Yeah.
It's been a very exciting year, 2016. I guess one of the most important things for me in this year has been this body of work that has come to me. In fact, you're the one that recommended it on my birthday 2 years ago.
Okay, are you blaming me or are you thanking me?
No,
I
I'm
can't tell
thanking
which.
you.
Okay,
Thanking
just
you.
checking.
It's called I Am the Word, and it's a channeled text, and it has been utterly life-changing. My life has changed so dramatically. I have a new relationship in my life that was totally unexpected in just about every regard. And also, the body of work that I'm doing now around this book has really moved me to another level of understanding my own spirituality. So It's been
Beautiful.
wonderful, yeah.
Beautiful.
And I'm delighted to be back doing the show again.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
It feels
great.
really good to be back. It's going to be a great show today.
And I know that you've
Yeah.
been up to something pretty exciting.
Yeah, I feel really blessed. Taking some of the consciousness that we've been talking about over the last couple of years and having it in a different format with a new media company called Only the Source. OnlyTheSource.com. It's an internet-based media program. And we are looking at the OS of the next human OS as an operating system, with Only Source being that OS. And bring some humor and lightheartedness, which occasionally I hope to bring to this program, as I do from time to time.
Oh, you do?
To offer up a practice. So it's not just simply a conversation, but it's things that people can do to shift the true nature of their physical reality in terms of shifting biochemistry, the feel-goods, so that people can experience firsthand for themselves how they have much greater influence over how they experience life than they may ordinarily think.
That's exciting.
It is exciting because that's
Yeah.
become a bit of a meditation for me as well. Only the Source exists. And then to your point, that word, I am word.
Word, I am word.
And this word is the vibration of God in action, whatever we call God to be. And so to the extent we are that vibration and call that into our presence, that can be a life shifter.
That's a life shift.
Indeed.
Yeah. Well, we're about shifting. We're about waking up.
Yeah. Yes, let's wake everybody up today. And thank you all for
We-
being
yeah,
here.
we
We have
have a
got a
wonderful-
full house here today. It
I'm
is
going to give a
fabulous.
claps to our audience.
Thank you all for being here.
Makes such a huge difference when we have an audience, because your energy is so wonderful and positive, and it makes all of us feel comfortable. So, this past year has been quite a year going on politically and globally and environmentally. I guess what I'd like to talk about briefly is how can spirituality really make a difference in all that negativity that we're dealing with?
Well, again, it really is a matter of how we define our terms and what spirituality really is. But as I see it, it's how can we live our deepest truths, what we know in our hearts to be true, beyond what we've been taught. And sometimes it's going beyond, frequently, it's going beyond what we've been socialized. So any sort of prejudices, any sort of putting people in boxes of us and them, and separation. It's time for us, and clearly we see that in the headlines every day with the bombings and the political structures and everything in place, is coming to a deeper level of one humanity, a deeper level of us all being human beings, ultimately wanting the same thing.
Exactly.
And so what do you think?
Well, the reaction of the average person who is more liberally inclined is horror at what's going on in the world today. And it's hard to say not to do that, because they're natural feelings that come up. But I really do believe that it's really, really important for us to hold the highest possible thought forms we can have for what's going on in the world today. And again, referring to the word book, I Am the Word, the three most important intentions or meditations are, I know who I am, I'm an embodiment of the divine in human form. I know what I am. I'm an energy being, vibrating at a frequency that gives me density. And I know how I serve, and how I serve is by seeing everybody else, no matter who they are, including Mr. Trump, as spiritual beings having a human experience. So that's how I see what we can do. And now,
yes,
I want to get into the show.
Please do.
We have a wonderful show planned for you today, and our guests are perfect for this conversation about how important it is to live lives that are present and are aware of our true nature. They are Deirdre Hade and Will Arntz, who are visionaries and artists of conscious living, which they've portrayed very, very beautifully in this absolutely gorgeous book called The Not So Little Book of Surprises. And you can see it's not so little. I think it started out maybe with
so it's
that
aptly
intention.
titled.
And it's a beautiful coffee table book, and I hope that you'll have a chance to take a peek at the few that are out there today. I have the pleasure of introducing Deirdre, and I want to share a little bit about her. First thing I want to say is that she's a mystic, and we're going to talk about that today. Since her early years in Memphis, Tennessee, she has been an artist and a visionary, writing poetry and conversing with the mystical worlds. As a ballet dancer and choreographer recognized by Robert Joffrey, she performed throughout the country and founded the dance ensemble Celebrations of the Sacred. At 16, her mother diagnosed with terminal breast cancer. Deirdre discovered the healing power of light, enabling her mother to live 13 years longer than expected. As founder of Radiance Healing and Meditation, Deirdre has guided people worldwide, teaching them to harness their own inner wisdom and healing potential. She is currently writing her story of life as a modern-day mystic. Welcome, Deirdre. So wonderful to have you. You do the honors for Will?
I'm happy to.
Okay.
I'll do it with my glasses.
Okay.
So Will Arntz, professional career started as a research laser physicist, working on Star Wars type high energy laser activity, which is amazing. And then moving on to software, writing AutoSys, an automated job control system platform still used by major Fortune 500 companies. And he sold that, tried to retire, and then produced the film I think many of us have heard of, What the Bleep Do We Know? Which I guess you also directed and created as well, exploring spirituality, quantum physics, neurology, and the implications of what this world could possibly be. Truly a landmark movie there. And after trying to retire again, I guess, you've come back to life in another incarnation with this book, The Not So Little Book of Surprises, with his wife Deirdre. So thank you both for being here. And Patricia, why don't we get into some questions?
Okay, so I love how you opened up the book here. Where is it? It has these pages. I want to show people here. You can see that. Take a peek at that. And what she says here is we are here as mystics. If you are here, you are a mystic. You were born a mystic and you will die a mystic. And there's no way you're going to get out of it. I think that's amazing. So I would love to have you address how would you define a mystic? And what do you mean by we're all mystics?
Thank you so much. So happy to be here. Thank you, everyone. So the mystical part of ourself is the part of ourself that is connected to the source, to the light. It's the transcendent part. It is also the place that we descend into when we experience union and oneness with people we love and with the other realms. So in my experience of working with thousands of people all over the world over many, many years, I discovered that everybody has a place inside of us, whether you identify with being spiritual or mystical or not. If you really sit down, I would sit down and really ask people the question, well, have you ever felt like someone was like watching over your shoulder? I mean, come on, fess up. And everybody, remember we did those interviews in New York on the street? Everyone, oh no, I've never had anything mystical. And then we'd go down the little rabbit hole, and then they go, well, yeah, one time. So we've all had these experiences, and what I want to do is illuminate and encourage all of us to embrace them and welcome them, because they're really our key to fulfilling ourselves and to our happiness. That's what I feel. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, beautiful. I think that we all have had those type of experiences.
Yes.
And I love that the word mystical also has to do with mystery.
Yes,
Because we're tapping into something that we may never fully comprehend. And maybe that's okay.
And that's okay. We're not supposed to fully comprehend it. We're just supposed to embrace it. And I always feel that those little experiences, like just today I went and got my hair done, and I was talking to a woman, and another person we knew had passed away, and it was very tragic. And she said, "Oh, you won't believe it. This other person showed up, and she has the same tattoo as this other woman." And everybody was like, "Wait a minute, that's so odd." And I said to her that when those stories happen in our life, it really is the higher source, the angels, the whatever word we want to call those beings. They give us these little messages to say, there's a plan. You may not know what the plan is. It may look painful, it may hurt, but there's a bigger plan, and we want you to know you're not alone, that we really are watching over you. So
It's very comforting.
Yeah, and it's certainly talking like synchronicities.
Right,
And
exactly.
there's certainly, it's not a synchronicity necessarily that we're all here today right now.
Exactly.
Because we're also bringing some intent into this. And I was really taken by the book in many ways. And one of the things that's mentioned, and Will, I'd like to involve you in the conversation here too. You talk about a choice point, that we're here at a particular time in humanity's evolution, that we have a choice between us and maybe some of the immediate generations to follow here, but really in a relatively narrow time band that will change or affect the course of humanity for up to 1 million years. And what do you think makes this time frame so much more either cataclysmic or, ripe for that kind of impact?
Well, I think that, everyone kind of realizes things are just falling apart all around us. We've always, for years, I remember people were saying, "Oh, there's going to be a paradigm shift, there's going to be a paradigm shift," right? And, but when I first heard that, I thought, oh, that'll be great, there'll be a moment and everyone will become enlightened and we'll smile and hold hands, but that's not the way it works. Things fall apart first.
Yeah.
So we're the choice point now is things are falling apart. What people did 20 years ago is very different. I just saw today, people aren't going to shopping malls anymore. Now they buy everything online. That's something that came and went within 20 years. So things are happening, and all these ideas about who we are in the world and what we're supposed to do, that's changing. We realize we can actually kill the planet we're living on. That people, at least a lot of people, are aware of that now. We can blow ourselves up. So all this stuff is happening, sort of falling apart. And on the other hand, I think a lot of what's happening is this whole materialistic world that sort of grew up where science was the king and all this mystical stuff was wacko crazy. People are realizing now, no, well, that was the scientists' idea, but those worlds that people like Deirdre go into, they may be real after all. And so there's this whole thing of opening up, and you can see it around, 15 years ago, if you told people you were meditating, doing yoga, they would look at me like I was, an alien or something like that. Right. Now every strip mall has a yoga studio. So you see these things changing very, very quickly, and that's why it's a choice point, because all these options are on the table now. And so we get to choose which road we're going to go down. And
I'd like to add to that, science has a very important role here today in helping people understand the truth of who we are, quantum physics. And although I'm not a scientist, I am a scientist in my own life laboratory, and I understand, that everything is energy, as Einstein says. So if everything is energy, including us, then, and we're creating it all, this world is an optical delusion that we're creating all the time with our thinking. Right. And I read once, I can't remember exactly where, it might have been Ramtha, I remember that, going back to the 80s, that the quantum physicists of today are the mystics, because they understand that we're all connected in the web of life, that there is no separation. There's no such thing as a thing, according to a scientific journalist who wrote a book called The Field. Lynn McTaggart. Lynn
Right, of
McTaggart.
course. Yep.
And she says there's no such thing as a thing.
Right.
There's no such thing as a thing. Nothing is separate from anything.
Yeah.
Everything is connected all the time. And when you think about that, then you understand why there's so much suffering in the world. You know, even though we live in paradise here in Santa Barbara and we're far removed from all the horrors that are going on in the world, we feel it on an energetic level, you know. So I think science is a very important part of people understanding, because when people understand, at least it's been in my experience, you know, I have to have a logical left brain understanding. I do. I like to have that. You know, I do believe in that our guides are working with us, and I do believe in angels and all of that. But when you have a logical, linear, practical understanding that what you're thinking, what you're speaking, and how you're putting it out into the field is actually having an impact on what's happening, then you're going to start paying attention to what you're thinking and what you're saying and how you're feeling about it when you're doing it. You know, so that to me then just becomes a common sense conversation.
And you know, to bring up that movie that you did over a decade ago, What the Bleep Do We Know?
That was a great movie.
Fabulous, that put and tied in and integrated the science and the spirit. I think we actually have a clip right now that we get to show
Yeah, it
everybody.
would be great. We do. We have a little clip.
The deepest level of truth uncovered by science and by philosophy is the fundamental truth of unity. At that deepest subnuclear level of our reality, you and I are literally one.
While at the same time that you are separate and you are different and you are unique, you are one and the same with all of creation.
Beautiful.
That's great. Yeah, there you have it. And that was John Hageland.
That was John Hageland.
And do you remember John Hageland ran for president in 2000?
I remember that. Yeah.
Came in a distant.
Yeah,
Do you know,
20th. But
I actually interviewed him on my show at the time called The Paradigm Shift. And he was really one of my first quantum physicists ever on the show. And he was running for president. Wow. So Deirdre, I have to thank you. So learn how to repronounce your name here. So you're the founder of Radiance Healing and Radiance Meditation. What is the teaching involved there?
Well,
What can you tell us about that?
yes, I'd love to. Thank you. So when my mother got cancer when I was about 15, I was in the room with her. Both my parents, let me just say, were scientists. My father was a biochemist and physiologist. He discovered the precursor, the molecular structure to the DNA, which led to the double helix discovery. So he was a very famous scientist. My mother was also a biochemist, and both of them were pretty much atheists. So along comes me, the one-off. So, but my mother got this cancer, and we didn't pray because my family were atheists. But I was sitting with my mother, and I prayed. I just said, God, please help my mother. And I just remember my heart just cracking open and going into this kind of a different state, a state of bliss or joy, happiness, just this different state. And when that happened, my mother and I saw in the room a light. The room really lit up. My mother, being a biochemist, of course, was where the lights, what do you mean the lights aren't on? And then she said, wow, my pain went away, Deirdre, my pain went away. And then she said, let's just keep this to ourselves. We don't want to upset your father. So that was my first experience of what I call radiance. Later on in life, I had an experience of, I said Psalms 91 1,000 times because...
Which one is that?
This, whenever you attach yourself to the Most High is how it begins. And it's really the Psalms about attaching to the light, and how the light or the spirit will hold you above whatever trauma, whatever human experience is happening. You will be in it but not of it. I was going through a difficult time. I started saying this psalm over and over, and a light came into my room at night. I started shaking, and this went on for quite some time. until one day I shifted, I changed. Everything, my reality shifted. I felt one with all things. I could hear people talk. I just knew things more things about people. And then from this, circumstances happened to where I started working with people with this light, with this energy that would come through. And the presence, I always say the presence that guides me and brought to me this light, shares with me, said to me one day, this energy that that's passing through you now, you're a vessel, is called radiance. And it is an energy that everyone has because it is your soul. And I want you to teach people and show people how to take their own radiance, your own radiance, and make it more fuller, brighter. And what I learned was that our soul, which is this brilliant, incredible life source of one in union with God, our soul isn't really here. And that's why we're asleep. And so when we call our soul, invoke our soul, when we take care of our soul, we coax our soul back, and we do different kinds of meditations and prayers, that energy that's ours, it's your soul. It's your soul. You think more of you is here, and that's God. That's you as God, and that's what radiance is. So that's what radiance healing is, and that's what radiance meditation is.
And you know, we have another clip, and this was the clip about the grumpy.
Oh, right.
Right? So I know it's going to be kind of a hard segue to go from radiance in our soul to grumpy, but it's such a great clip.
No, it's a good one. It's a good one because I didn't know the camera was on, and so he was filming, and I said, I'm just going to play around. But actually, it's really true, because the thing is, and really it's so important to know this, just because you go into a kind of enlightenment, the oneness, it doesn't mean you're not human. It doesn't mean you don't have bad days or you aren't grumpy sometimes. And that's where we start to feel like, oh, I could never be awakened. I can never be enlightened. Because that's not how it works. You're still human, no matter what. You're still human. We're still human. So you're going to get to see my human self.
Yes, it's a very
human.
cute clip. Yeah.
Story time. This is my favorite right here. My favorite little story. If you're in the practice of being hard to love, eventually people will move away. Not because they want to, but their need is love too. And it's hard to be around somebody who is, well, Mr. Grumpy Pants all the time. What? I came up with this because I'm grumpy a lot of the times. And one day I was thinking, I'm just not getting the love that I need, and I'm just not being treated the way I want to be treated by everyone around me. And then God came in, this voice from the mystical world, and said, well, it's hard to love someone who's Mr. Grumpy Pants all the time. And I thought about it. I said, oh my gosh, you're right. I've been a little bit grumpy. And okay, let me just try something different. So I decided to take my mind and put my attention on not being grumpy, even though I felt like being grumpy, and just pretend that I was feeling great. And it was really amazing, all the love that I got back. So that's my teaching.
Thank you.
That was great.
That was great. The cat was perfect. You even had the cat, going with her expression. It was really funny.
I am the filmmaker, so.
You are the filmmaker.
I hope there wasn't any cat abuse going on there to get that expression.
No, there was just wife abuse. See, he just brings it to me after he finished it.
That wasn't
Look
your
what
cat,
I
was it?
posted.
Was that your cat?
Was that?
It's
your cat?
Indre, the photographer, Indre
that was his
Balog,
cat.
who
That was
took
his,
the amazing photos in our book. That was his
And
cat.
beautiful photos,
Yeah, the photos are
absolutely.
incredible. Yeah.
Yes, I want to kind of get back to this theme we talked about earlier about a choice point, and to follow it up with another quote you have in the book, a point you make about time itself speeding up. So how do you know? How do you know? I mean, it feels like it's going faster, but then maybe it's just old age setting in.
How do you know it's speeding up?
Yeah.
I'll tell you how I know it's speeding up. You know, there's a lot of things happening. Oh, wait a minute, I got a phone here. Let me go check the phone. Oh my God, I need a new OS for the phone. Let me do this. I'll put this right there. Oh my God, there's someone. That's the way everyone's living. I mean, you know, come on. Look at the audience. Does everyone feel a little weird? Your cell phones are off. They come in here, turn yourself. Yeah, because everyone is so connected and all this stuff is going on and everyone's working 16 hours a day. And when you're not working, you're networking with everyone. Blah, 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 blah. So that's how I know time is speeding up, because it's speeding up. So it's something to be aware of, because it can drive you crazy.
Yeah.
So what are the implications here? How do we work with time speeding up?
You mean so you don't go crazy?
Well, or that you take advantage of the speed up. Perhaps if you go into the flow with it, maybe there's something we can actually, rather than resist it, maybe there's something we can open to through it.
Well, I think it's like a river. So, you know, you cannot resist a river up to a certain point except when there's a flood, and then you'll go crash into the rocks and that's it. So I think the implications are that people have to consciously slow down, because the push is like more and more, and all the technology and all the marketing people behind the technology making you want to look at the technology so you'll buy more stuff, I mean, it's this whole thing we're all getting sucked into. So I think the implication is we become A, conscious of that, and B, we start saying, okay, now, you know, I think I'm just going to take my phone and I'm going to turn it off for an hour. That's just what I'm going to do, and I think I'm going to watch some clouds for an hour. You know, that sort of thing. People 40, 50 years ago, you would just kind of do that because in the evening there wasn't that much going on. But now there's all the stimulus. So now, because of that change, you have to adjust to that, and you have to come up with ways. And a lot of the techniques we talk about, a lot of the meditation, mindfulness, is ways to basically say, look, time is speeding up. Now, the advantage to time speeding up is you can change quicker. You can transform quicker. So what may have taken 5 years of personal work in the old days, you can do in 5 months or maybe 5 weeks, because time is speeding up. So if you can take advantage of it, you can transform quicker. But you want to be the master and not the slave of time. And if you don't consciously set that up, you'll become the slave, and then you're owned by the time masters.
And, Einstein tells us time is an illusion. It doesn't exist. Time just gives us the bookends of life, so that we have some kind of structure.
Yeah.
And I remember a friend saying to me, because I have a penchant to be late, for those that know me well, there's plenty of time and every moment counts. I mean, think about that. There's plenty of time and every moment counts. So we can create it having plenty of time, and then being sure that we're present in every moment, so that that moment counts.
I mean, and I think too, being someone who doesn't live in time, I mean, I really broke through time, that time is actually very important, very precious. And one of the reasons that we feel so hectic now is we don't have respect for time. We don't honor time. We've forgotten what time means, how it is precious. Time is a gift. Time gives us an ability to become wise, to learn, to go through the cycles of life, youth, middle age, coming older. And, we're here to learn. We're here to learn. And time is really our gift to be able to learn. Yes, time is an illusion in the quantum sense, and I do live outside of time. Time for me doesn't exist anymore. But something happened that now I really respect time. I honor time. What does it mean? What is the gift? What is time trying to teach us right now? I think that's a question we can all ask. What's time trying to teach us right now? Because it is going so fast. What are we supposed to learn?
I would say to be present.
That's exactly
Yes.
right.
I mean,
That's what I would say
it.
too.
Time,
Right
yeah,
there.
if you're present in every moment, then you're present to who you are, and you're present to the fact that you're creating your world.
Absolutely. That's it.
So, the surprise, Book of Surprises. Why is the element of surprise on the path of enlightenment so important to you? And what do you guys do to surprise yourselves?
Well, we made this book. That was a big surprise because that wasn't really anyone's plan. Someone sort of put a little bug in my ear, and I thought, well, maybe let me look at it. And within about a day, I'd come up with the whole concept of the surprise. Part of the reason I did that is, as a documentary filmmaker, you're always reading off of transcripts. You interview people, you have the transcripts. Well, Deirdre has books, transcripts, like stack of books of all the teachings and mystical poems. So I started looking through them, and there were certain quotes that I really liked that were surprising, because being a mystic, she'll say things that are different than the way normal people look at them or say them. So I started realizing it was surprising. And then I remembered the research from Bleep, where what a surprise does neurochemically, it creates the neuroplasticity in the brain. And neuroplasticity is the ability for your neurons to rewire.
Right.
And every time they rewire, it's a new thought. So if the surprise happens, and then you get all the neuroplasticity, if you can then go to a new thought, it's going to go so much quicker as opposed to normally. So it's like, well, a surprise is really a doorway to transformation. So that's how that happened.
Oh, interesting.
As
Yeah,
to
I
how
never
we
knew that.
surprise ourselves, take it away, honey.
Surprise.
Well, he always says he's
I don't think it's going to be a surprise, though, Will, really.
He always says he's surprised because he never knows who's going to show up in the room.
Oh, okay.
Right? Who's here today, honey?
Yeah.
So, truthfully, surprise, real, and Will did come up with this concept of surprise, and I said, wow, that is so true.
And surprising.
And surprising. We can use surprise. Surprise can be like a tool we can use to really grow. And I hadn't thought about that before, even though the material in the book is from me. That idea of how if we take surprise and we really decide to not just like let it go, but what shifted in me right now from this surprise? I feel that that's really a quantum way to grow. So thank you, honey, for that. He's so smart.
I'm sensing there's something about, and he is so smart.
He's so smart,
Yes, you
yeah.
are.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's something we have in common, just a little bit. And I'm also wondering that in addition to the smartness, perhaps it's also a little bit of the beginner's mind, where we can't always necessarily know what's going to happen, even though we kind of think we do, and that part of mystic that equates with the mystery.
You never know. No matter
Yes.
how much you know, you never know. It's
That's what
always a
makes life
surprise.
exciting, though,
Yeah,
really.
it is.
It's not knowing.
Yeah, you think about kids, it's funny you said beginner's mind. You think about a kid, they're living in the world of surprise all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything is new. Oh my God, look at that. Oh, look at that. The water actually spills on the table. Cool, that's so pretty. So, and so that notion, and also when you think about kids are learning so much too, and they're changing. But what happens as the clock keeps going around back to time, you get older, you get set in your ways, and then you don't really want to have a surprise anymore. So that's something that I think, again, it's a good thing to cultivate, that desire, that feeling of like, I want to be surprised today. I want to see something today I've never seen before.
Well, let's amp it up a little bit and consider the possibility, and you mention it in the book, this notion of marriage. And this notion of marriage between the individual and the source, God itself, as the key to this kind of inner kingdom, and that in essence is a vibrational presence. So that may be the ultimate surprise for everybody, that not only is that marriage inherent within us, but that it has a certain vibrational presence or spectrum of presence. And I'd like you to discuss and share with us what that feels like, at least to you, and some of the ways in which you're aware of that connection.
Well, you're looking at me, but I think I'm going to turn this one over to my marriage counselor here. We got married about 4 or 5 years ago, and I'd never been married. So I was sort of like, the joke was I was like the 56 Chevy with, still the
Exactly.
plastic seats, covers on it, never that.
Well preserved.
So, yeah, well preserved, thank you. Never married, no children and everything. And so then I run into this one and then went and got married. And of course she was thinking old dog, new tricks, old dog, is it going to work? So she's really the expert on marriage. You like the way I flipped that over, honey?
No.
I'll pay for it later.
No, what it says to me is that I really like a challenge. I really like a big challenge. I like an adventure.
Oh,
So I was like, okay, let's see if we can get him to cohabitate. Like, honey, that lunch looks really good. Wow, there's somebody else in the house that wants to eat too. No, he's great. He's a great husband. The best. So, so marriage, yes. Well, marriage. Really, we're married. I love being married, and we're in love, and I love being in love, and I would hope everyone has love in one's life. But it's, in my understanding of, in my spiritual work and study for a lifetime, in order to have this kind of love, a human to human, spirit to spirit, we must have that marriage to a higher power first. We must have, this is the primary marriage, because then we can bring our broken, messy, kooky self to another broken, messy, kooky self. And when we each have the marriage with the higher power, that will inform us to understand each other, forgive each other, be patient with each other, try to be not judgmental of each other, love each other when we don't feel like loving each another. Like, I'm going to love you today even though I don't feel like it. That's how we create a marriage, a relationship. It's not loving somebody when we feel good. It's loving somebody when you don't feel like loving somebody. That's what makes a relationship. So it's so important to have this marriage with that, the whatever you consider the all that is, the God, the higher power, because that will feed us so that we can have great relationships with each other.
Yeah.
So what does it feel like, or how can people cultivate that vibrational presence, which ultimately is what it is?
Great. Well, that's what radiance is, and radiance really is learning how to meditate so that you feel the God vibration. And you have the God vibration when you go into a very deep sense of peace. When you feel like you're shimmering, I don't want to explain it, though it's hard to explain. You just feel every cell shaking, vibrating, and you feel it's like a bliss or an ecstasy. It's like a joy, this joy for no reason. And that is the God vibration. And we hope to hold that as much as possible for one really great reason. It just makes life a lot more fun. Really, when you get down to
Isn't that
we
enough?
enjoy life.
Isn't
we can
that
enjoy
enough?
life.
Does it need to have such a
we can
deep,
enjoy
weighty,
life.
profound thing? Yeah.
So
In your book, you have a couple of pages there talking about ascended masters
Yes.
and who are working with us, and you particularly point out the Kuan Yin, who is like my favorite, associated with the Aquarian age, which is the age of peace, love, and brotherhood. Hopefully that's happening. We're at the very beginning of it, so I think there is definitely hope. But I loved what you said. You said that you see the Kuan Yin riding on a dragon. You don't see her on a poodle. I mean, and what is that? You see the Kuan Yin riding on a dragon, and you say the light is never shown riding on a poodle, but rather dragons, lions, or stallions.
well, that is true.
Yeah, so
Yes.
why is that?
Because,
What's the implication here?
Well, and especially with Kuan Yin, who I love very, very much. And for those people who don't know what an Ascended Master is, I'd like to just share a little bit. So an ascended master is really a modern day term for what we would consider the saints of any tradition, whether it's Kuan Yin or Lao Tzu or Mother Mary or Shri Sai Baba. You know, every tradition we have these great avatars, and they are ascended masters. They are avatars, they're masters who have come here to bring us great light and great wisdom and understanding. So in saying that, Kuan Yin, my understanding of that is that in the human experience, to become a, quote, master, to become awake, one of our primary goals is that we must meet what we consider the beast or the ego, the place of anger, hatred, jealousy, you know, all of that stuff, that human stuff. We must meet it, learn it, understand it, so much so that those parts of ourselves that we consider bad or the troublemakers, it actually becomes our winged, great power source. So we think of a dragon as fierce, fire-breathing, burning down, but Kuan Yin is just driving it, and the dragon is just flying along, taking her where she needs to go. Because this world of separation, this world of duality, has what we consider the light and the dark, the good and the evil. There's no way out of it. We're not going to sit here and meditate and it's going to go away. It's not going to go away. This is the world of duality. So we are here to take that duality, take that negativity, learn, understand it. Why is it there? What is motivating it? What's underneath it? And when you know this, you become wise. And that negativity now becomes your source of inspiration. It becomes what fuels you to dance, to write a poem, to write a book, to tell a story, to discover a cure. Do you see what I'm saying? Is that practical enough?
Yeah.
Did I get there? Okay,
Yeah.
good. So that's it. That's what that
It's a
means.
motivating force. Right.
Let's talk about reality for a moment,
my favorite
which we
subject.
are, and go into the true nature of our physical reality as aspects of this, whether it's that those energies of strength and vitality that you just referred to. And what is your understanding here? Because you say that you are here to help people to expand into their true nature of their physical reality and what's possible in their lives. How do you go about helping people to have that deeper understanding?
Great. Well, thank you for asking. And I want to just clarify something. Many times, I wasn't saying strength and vitality, forgive me.
Those are my words.
No,
Yeah.
that's okay, because that's, I just want to clarify it, because many times our dragon is our vulnerability, our weakness, our places where we're just like, oh, I can't get through this. God, help me. I'm powerless. And that is many times our greatest strength and our greatest vitality. So then the question was, what, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so the question was, how do you work with people and in terms of helping people to expand into
great, wonderful.
that reality?
So what I do, and what, I feel like as though I got a gift. I was given a gift. I'm very grateful for it. I don't take it for granted. And I love sharing the gift. It's just very simple. I love giving it away. If I can't give it away, it's like no fun. It's like, why, really? This is, why, really? So that is, I give meditations, and meditations I do energetic clearings. We clear away karmas, we clear away thought forms. Many of us, we suffer because we have thoughts that aren't our own thoughts. They're other people's thoughts that get tangled in our energy body. So me and the guys upstairs or downstairs, wherever we think they live, we clear away those energy blocks, clear away those thought forms. It's kind of like taking a bath, so that you can have your own radiance, so that your own wisdom and understanding can come forward. Because the real teacher's in here. The real teacher's in here. I see myself really more as a guide. It's like you need a captain on the boat to get you to where you want to go, and then when you get there, you don't need the captain of the boat. So
Good.
That's what it
That's
is.
beautiful. Thank you.
Well, this is our final question, and actually it's kind of going to wrap up the show because we always ask for a pearl of wisdom. You know, what can you give our audience here in the studio and at home to take away from this conversation? And it's about enlightenment. Is enlightenment something that we strive for? And what can we do to help us reach enlightenment?
Well,
This
is
is
it
to
something
both
to
of
strive
you.
for? Well, yeah, it doesn't seem to just happen. I mean, historically, you don't find many people who say, well, I was just hanging out one day and gee, I became enlightened. So it seems like it's something that you always strive for. And the sort of what to do, I mean, there's volumes. I mean, pick a path. There's so many techniques that people have done. But really, the thing is, you just got to set your sails in that direction, and then you start going on. I mean, we're sitting here, and I just looked over at the cameraman, whose his T-shirt says "Love, Peace, Art." You know, you just start there. I mean, but it's moving beyond yourself to something more expansive.
I want to ask a question about that. It's really a comment. As I understand it, we're already enlightened. We already have that within us. So isn't it really, instead of acquiring or attaining enlightenment, isn't it really more about becoming aware that we already are that we already are the embodiment of the divine? How could you not be enlightened if you're the embodiment of the divine having a human experience? So for me, it's really more becoming awake and aware that you're already there. Would you respond to that?
Well,
say
I mean,
something.
yeah,
Say something.
I mean, I've read that too, and I figure once I finally transition over to that enlightened thing, I'll say, oh yeah, I was there all the time. On this side of the fence, it's like, wow, I hope that's true. So, you know, that's
Right.
maybe not the great answer.
I could share something about that from firsthand experience, and I know that saying. So that saying, we're already enlightened, is a paradox. And enlightenment is a paradox. Mm-hmm. It is where day meets night, good meets evil, and light meets dark. It's that point in the center. So yes, we are already enlightened, and no, you are not enlightened. Meaning there is a discovery. And that's what the joy is, the journey. Mm-hmm. Like otherwise, why would we be on the journey? It's a discovery. It's an adventure. It's learning. It's figuring out. So you see, there's nothing wrong. You've done nothing. Nobody's ever, believe it or not, done anything really wrong. It's just misplaced. What did I learn? So when I went into my enlightenment, obviously that thought came up. Oh, well, I've already always been here? And what I discovered is, yes, my soul is already light. But enlightenment is when our soul becomes wise. There's a difference. The soul is always there, but the soul is to become wise, is to become knowledgeable. And that is the discovery. That's new. That's new. So I hope that answered it.
Yes, no,
Okay.
it's good. We want to close with a clip, and it's a short clip, but this is the one with the ducks that I thought was so cute that you did, right? So let's show the clip, and then you can just wrap it up with a comment.
Okay.
All right.
That mystical world, that's where we find the light. But it's also the chrysalis of coming undone. If you're going to embark on a journey of coming undone, you damn well better have your ducks in a row, because it could be like splat on the windshield. Hi, my name is Deirdre Hade, and I don't want you to go splat on the windshield. I know you've gone splat, I've gone splat, but there's another way, and that's why I created a map, an experience, because the mystical is an experience. And we all long for it. And sometimes we just get there by accident, and we're like, it's so wonderful to be here, but I don't want to go through what I went through to get here. So that's why I created this book. I want to ask you to really inquire, explore, feel, think. Allow yourself to ponder. Open up a page, read it, put it down, walk away, think about it. Because the energies in the not so little book of surprises will surprise you. And they will show up in your life and bring you delight and bring you aha.
Great. I think that was an appropriate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you both very, very much for coming on our first show in our third season. We're so thrilled and delighted to have had you. It's been just the perfect conversation.
Thank you so much.
both.
It's been
Fabulous
wonderful. Thank you
conversation.
so much for
Oh,
having us.
our pleasure.
Lovely.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for your wonderful work, service you're doing
you're
for our
welcome.
world, really.
So we have two more short segments here before we completely wrap up the show, and I'm going to introduce Stu here, who's going to give you Stu's views.
Thank
There
you,
you
Patricia.
go.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Happy to. So here we are with this edition of Stu's Views, and we're going to come full circle to what I've been up to in the last year or so with this new venture called Only the Source, as in Only the Source Exists. And it's the next human OS, in a way, where it's an operating system, and it's a frame of mind that we all operate under. It turns out that the OS that we were born into can literally stand for original sin. Because let's face it, it's a story of separation, that somehow we are separate from something that's infinite. As if. It's mathematically impossible to be separate from something infinite, no matter how much we could possibly consider that we are, and no matter how much humanity has been living its life that way, that we read in the headlines and in our own lives every single day of how separate we possibly are. We all have those moments, and I guess we can call that being human on some level. And yet, in incorporating some of the work that Will and Deirdre have done, in terms of what the bleep do we know, and going into quantum physics and cellular biology, and the true nature of our physical reality, we are infinite in terms of our actual physical structure, even though this appears to be separate and distinct. So now it's simply a matter of, can we allow for that possibility? And I'll speak for myself. Can I allow for that possibility that there is a new S, that only source, and that it does exist? And I find that from an actual practice, I actually wake up in the morning every day, and that's the first thing I think of is only the source exists, and I'm an aspect of it. So whatever this source is that's dreaming us all up, dream me up to be loving, dream me up to be happy, dream me up to be a vibrational presence of delight, and have that kind of marriage thing going on with an inner kingdom. Do that, because I realize that no matter what, it's like the Hotel California song. You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave, because no matter how checked out we can be, it doesn't change the fundamental reality that we are aspects of something infinite and that we are interconnected, no matter how much our experiences are to the contrary. And the more moments we spend in that awareness, we do go into a timeless state, which actually is one of the characteristics of the source. The source truly is timeless. And no matter how these bodies are shaped for planned obsolescence, and we may not have all the time in the world of creation in these bodies, we have the opportunity to spend more moments that are timeless and more moments of absolute sheer delight. And I'm inviting in an age of delightment. And let that be aho. And with that, it's time for Patricia and her quantum quote.
That was great. Age of Delightment. Well, I didn't have to look very far to find the perfect quantum quote for this show. In fact, I didn't have to look any farther than the book, page 62 and 63. And I just want to show you the beautiful, beautiful way that this is done. You can see it in the camera. Yeah. So there, quote on each page, when I'm putting them together here, the darkness serves the light if you are conscious. The darkness is just darkness if you're unconscious. The darkness serves the light if you are conscious. The darkness is just darkness if you're not conscious. So what does this mean? Well, what this meant to me when I read it was, You know, we all have our stuff. We all have our issues. We all have our negativity, our fear, our doubt, our worry, and our concern. And according to Bruce Lipton, who wrote the book, The Biology of Belief, this all happens as early as 6 months in utero. And up to age 6, we're in a theta state of consciousness. So all that programming from the past goes right into our subconscious like a psychic sponge. And it's there. And then we continue to have programs that we accrue in our subconscious as we grow up, and then we get triggered, we go into a reaction, and then we go down that rabbit hole that we don't want to go down, where we're triggered in a reaction, and then we're like a rat on a wheel going over and over and over again, not getting anywhere. When you have a level of enlightenment, a consciousness, you can look at the situation as an opportunity to change. You can look at a place where you get triggered. When I get triggered, I used to just get triggered and then be gone. Now I get triggered and I look at it and I think about it. And instead of reacting to it, and sometimes I do react to it, but I'm aware that I'm doing it. So it's that level of the observer. It's that level of what I call the silent witness, or the watcher watching, where you're actually seeing your human aspect of yourself, the small self, go into that pattern. But when you're in the dark, and you're not conscious, the darkness is just dark. It's just darkness. And you go right down into that place of feeling victimized, blaming everything outside of you, instead of accepting responsibility for you had the thought. You know, what happens is that we become victims of our own negative thinking and our own negative speaking. That's why it's so important for us to have positive thoughts and to have positive feelings that move those thoughts into the field. And I'm getting the signal that I have to wrap it up, so I wanted to tell you a story, but I'm not going to be able to tell you a story for another time. This has been so wonderful to have you here tonight, really. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. What a fabulous time.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you.
So, thank you very much. We like to close the show with the four of us coming together, and we didn't cue you in on this earlier.
So let's just go for it. Hands.
Let's go for it. And what we say is, until we see you again next time, get conscious now.
Get conscious now.